You're listening to Zeros on Heroes with Mike Mercadal. Hey everybody, welcome to Zeros on Heroes. My name is Mike Mercadal. Thank you to everyone who's been coming out to the Unsung Heroes live shows at the Creek in the Cave in Long Island City, Queens, every Thursday at 8 p.m. Well, except for last Thursday, because I was at New York Comic Con. That's right. I got a chance to go to New York Comic Con as a press person. That's right. I got press credentials for a little Zeros on Heroes. I got press access to celebrities, and I asked them dumb questions. I asked some good questions too, but I busied myself pretending to be a reporter while everyone else was actually doing it, and I was asking Zeros on Heroes type questions with respect. But the idea is that they would sit us down at in the press room at these tables, and then they would just bring the stars around. They would bring the actors and actresses and the producers and some of the writers, and I got some pretty cool content. I got some great access, and I'm sharing that with you now. The audio, I will say, is different than what you're used to from Zeros on Heroes. It feels more like the Unsung Heroes show, to be honest. It still sounds pretty good, so I'm very grateful for the Zoom H6 recorder. Plug for Zoom H6N. Get your Zoom, get the sound in your or whatever. Some plug tagline slogan. The first episode of this series of shows that are all kind of the New York Comic Con 2018 recap is going to be about Star Trek Discovery. Are you watching Star Trek Discovery? Do you have CBS All Access? Because that's where it is, and I feel like it should be on. It's a good show. It should be on the full network. It should be kind of one of these tentpole shows. I think it makes sense that they want a big show to draw people to their streaming service. But I don't know anyone who has CBS All Access. But if you are watching the show, you know it's good. If you aren't, it's great. It takes place pre-original series, and there's a lot going on. It feels very modern and very kind of intense. There's a ton of action in the first season. It's war-based, and it's all kinds of crazy shit going on, and it's a good show. I highly recommend it. And season 2, they brought us all into the theater underneath Madison Square Garden, and it was packed, man. It was full of people clamoring for the show. And last year it was pretty popular, a hugely popular panel as well. It's all those people must have CBS All Access. They showed off some stuff for the new season. They showed off trailers and some scenes, and answered some questions. And they were really secretive about a lot of stuff, so they couldn't give away too much. But they then funneled us out, the press people, into this essentially kind of a green room or something that was. I will tell you now, it was kind of like recording in a restaurant. Like everyone at the different tables were talking and having a good time, and everyone asking questions, and so you'll hear a lot of crosstalk and a lot of background chatter. So it'll sound fine, but just to give you a heads up, it was packed in that room. They were kind enough to come in, and everyone who spoke with us was pretty great. The first section of interviews, this first segment, is with the co-creator and executive producers Alex Kurtzman and Heather Caden, and they are the honchos of the show, and it was pretty cool to be able to talk to them. So take a listen. How'd you guys like that reaction out there? The crowd, full room, packed house.
It's always really humbling, I have to say. Like, you know, we all work really hard to please Trek fans, of which we consider ourselves proud members. So it's amazing, you know, to see a full crowd. When the lights came up and we saw actually how deep it was, that was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That was all I wanted. That's all I wanted, just to start it off, I guess. Round table, let's do it.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Are you excited about the second season to come?
Yes.
Are you scared, kind of? Or are you enjoying the time till it really starts?
I feel like we were more, I don't want to speak for you, I was much more nervous about the first season because I feel like we had so much to earn from the fans who have loved this for so many years, and I feel like once they realize, no, we've got them. Like we are protecting your special child. So I feel like because of that, I hope that we've earned the right to push more buttons and go in more directions, because hopefully fans feel confident that we know we're going to come back to a place they feel really happy with.
Yeah.
I can't wait for people to see it. I'm so excited.
Good. I'm trying to be all political.
No, I can't wait mostly because there's been so much joy in the writers' room and in the production this season, and I think in your first season, you're trying to figure out how do you bring Star Trek back, how do you do it in an original way and yet honor everything. But we set down a groundwork both in terms of the bridge crew coming together and becoming the Starship family. Now we get to tell stories that explore, and again, keep in mind we were in a time of war last year, so there was a different kind of urgency and pace to everything. We get to explore a lot of the philosophical issues that Trek at its best has done. We get to stop down more on character moments between people. I will say that the season is bigger visually than season one, and season one was pretty big, but we really, I think, kicked it up several notches in terms of what we're delivering in action sequences and in, so holding the balance between the great character work that Trek is known for, the humor that Trek can be known for, the thoughtfulness that it's known for, and then the scope and scale of a big movie. All of those things are at play in season 2, so I can't wait for people to see it.
And also, Alex directed the first episode, and it's amazing. Which he's not going to say, but it's amazing.
I won't say that. You tell me.
But you're proud of it.
I'm proud of it. Good. I'm just proud of the cast and the crew. I think everybody brought it. They really brought it.
A lot of TV is heavily serialized now, and you guys seem to have found a very niche way of balancing that, but also standalone episodes here and there story-wise. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that approach, and specifically how you did you take that same approach with season 2? Did you want to tell just a longer story?
There's a mystery. So, on the panel when Michelle was talking about killing her character off in the second episode, that was always the plan because we knew we were going to mirror where she was going to meet her. So the idea is you spend time at the beginning of the year really thinking through your season and saying, where do we want to get to? And how do we reverse engineer the ending that we want to get to? And once you know the ending of your season, you can start planting all the seeds in the right way and laying down the path. So, no, I think that we have known where we wanted to go from the beginning, and I think the fun of it is getting there in ways that surprise. Sure. Ways that, if the audience thinks that they're onto where we're headed, they might be right and they also might be wrong, and that's been really fun. I do think that, in a way, what we think about most is emotional serialization, meaning the characters have experiences and they take those emotional experiences with them to the next episode. But Trek, has a pretty long tradition of closed-ended episodes. Now, we again, even at a plot level, we're still pretty serialized. But yes, we sort of look at it as chunks. There are chunks and sections and big movements in the orchestra of the piece.
I've got one super quick question, and someone else can go. What's going to be the structure? Is it going to be like a set number of episodes, break, another set number of episodes?
No, it's thank you for asking. 13 straight. 13 straight.
In terms of casting, how do you approach that when you're trying to find someone to fill the shoes of as iconic a character and a performance as Spock?
Yeah. Well,
carefully.
Yeah, very carefully. I mean, here's the thing. You have to start by saying no one can fill those shoes. Meaning, no one can fill those shoes. Leonard Nimoy was Leonard Nimoy, and Zach Quinto is Zach Quinto. So what we need to do is ask ourselves, what is the spirit that has represented that character, and why has that endured through so many different actors? And then how do we maintain that, and then find an actor who can both bring their own thing to it, but also protect and uphold that spirit. So it's not really about doing an imitation of someone else's performance. It's about getting into the beating heart of who Spock is as a character.
Thank you
so much.
Thank
you.
That's right, baby. Spock. We're getting Spock in season 2, and I got to sit down and talk to the actors that play both Spock and Captain Pike. Yeah, this is very exciting for Star Trek lore nerds. And then also you could totally hear what I was talking about how it sounds like you're trying to record in an Olive Garden or whatever. When you hear your family. Here we go. We're going to sit down and talk to Anson Mount and Ethan Peck.
Hello. Greetings.
Is this as high tech as?
Quarterly.
Yes.
Very familiar.
Yeah.
So, what is it like to step into the shoes of such an iconic character?
It's really scary and hugely humbling, and I'm deeply honored. And I've put in a lot of work and have a lot more work to do. That's what it's like. How about you?
Me?
You get to like invent him.
Pretty much. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of shoe leather laid down for this character, thankfully. So yeah, I don't know. I've kind of learned at this point the questions that are, and the concerns that are going to help me, and the questions and concerns that are not going to help me as an actor. So I don't really think about that. Sorry to be boring.
How does it feel knowing that your character ultimately suffers a near fatal dose of delta rays and ends up in a wheelchair controlled by his brainwaves?
Well, it's a new thing to have a beginning and an end and no middle to a character. And if we ever get to explore that, I think that the fun part would be how do you get the character to that point in a way that's not a tragedy but a triumph.
When you got you were brought on, you're cast, you get the scripts, and you're sort of breaking down the story, and you're learning about your characters. What was your first impression of these characters that they've written for you, outside of like their iconic guests and all those things? But what was your first impression of who this person was?
I just said it to them as an answer to a different question, but the same holds true, which is I only knew that he probably had good parents and he definitely had good mentors.
Something I like to reference this quote from Wrath of Khan when Kirk speaks of Spock at his funeral, and he says he's one of the most human beings that I knew. And I think on the pages that I got, he's a humanist, and he struggles to make sense of his love and his care for all beings. You know, he's such a peaceable person, and that's very important to me in my construction of him.
So there are two, amongst the press people here, two pretty good beards going on. You brought a beard to Spock.
Well,
how much of that, how much did they belabor, how much beard, length, shape?
Oh, man.
Because I can only imagine that they went crazy trying to figure out what would work.
Well, so when I was, before I came to film, they were like, don't shave. And I was like, what? They're like, yeah. I was like, okay. And I thought it was going to go, I didn't know how long it was going to go for. You'll see how long it goes for, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's very specific, or, you know, hair, and she does a very, you know Shauna's last name? Shauna? She has like an Irish last name. Our key makeup artist does an amazing job and tends to it every day very diligently. And yeah, it's very specific.
I'm looking for a beard groomer, someone to groom my, like, having your own personal beard person.
It's a dream. I've never had a beard before.
Did you expect that when you got into acting that would be one of your like perks, that you would get someone to just groom you constantly?
My wildest dreams.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Is there anything in particular exciting for people to see when the new season drops?
I mean, yeah, all of it. I can't wait to see it. This guy looks amazing. It's so cool seeing it.
I know what my answer is, but I cannot say. There's so much you can't say about this show.
I think I'm excited for people to see the relationship between Spock and Michael.
Oh, okay.
I think that'll be really fulfilling and satisfying.
How did you find a balance between
being influenced by Leonard Nimoy and Zachary Quinto and what they've brought to Spock, and then making him your own interpretation as well?
Yeah, so I've mostly focused on Nimoy because that's ultimately who I will become, the Spock that I am. So mostly, I've seen all the Star Trek films, and I think Quinto's amazing. They're very different, in my opinion. I think there's a great sort of strength and danger about Nimoy's Spock that's right beneath the surface and very steady, that I have in my brain as kind of a point of direction or projection. Yeah.
For instance, I was just going to ask you who would win in a fight, Pike or Picard, but
Pike.
Who would what?
Because Jean-Luc Picard, the character, is going to be on coming back, and who would I was just going to make a goofy question. Would you beat up Patrick Stewart if you had to?
Absolutely.
Well, by the time I got there, I'd be, 300 years old? I think he could take me.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you very much.
That's right, Anson Mount is going to punch Patrick Stewart right in his face. I think. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? But there's so much that they could not say. You could feel them not wanting to give away any secrets, which kind of comes into play. I talked to Anthony Rapp and Wilson Cruz, who, well, one of them is supposed to be dead. How is he in season 2? Who knows? Well, we'll find out, I guess, if you watch the show. But it was great to sit down and talk with them. They are next.
I was actually really relieved to see you on the list for this press, and I'm glad that you're coming back. Were you guys at all disappointed to see the relationship seemingly end so quickly, so soon in season 1?
You want me to take that first? Well, I didn't know what was going to happen. Like, I don't always want to know all the things that are going to happen. I like to, because I'm in this show, the character doesn't know, so it's nice to kind of discover it as it goes along. What the producers had told me was that something rough happens, so I didn't know if that meant we broke up, he got sent to a different ship, he died, whatever. So
he doesn't like to know ahead of time.
Yeah, so
of course he comes to me area. So now what happens?
No, I don't want to know. So it was intense, but it also felt like everything else. Like it was done in a way that felt very. It wasn't just arbitrary, and there's it was meant to have an impact, and it was meant to be shocking, not just for shock value, but like deeply upsetting. And so that happened. I mean, those were all reasons to do it that were beyond just any sort of like half-ass anything. So it was really also great to learn that our story would continue in what has turned out to be, I think, really interesting way.
I found out, I didn't know until about a month before we shot the episode, and as I've said, it gave me a time to process my Puerto Rican response. And but as you'll see when the second season is over, or when it begins, that there's a real reason why things happened the way that they happened, and that had to happen in order for him to go through what he's about to go through, which for me was really satisfying just as an actor to be able to do, and as a fan of the show, right? Like that we get to tell the story in a real fleshed out way. But it doesn't come without a price.
Having seen you at the cons, I have my suspicions that you're actually quite a hardcore Trekkie.
I'm not a hardcore Trekkie like my friend Bill is a hardcore Trekkie. Yes.
Okay. Does having
it's all relative.
does having sort of a deep canon background inform and improve your performance, or is it actually better going in without that knowledge, that baggage?
Wow, I think. Well, I can say that it's just been a source of inspiration to me to be able able to watch the incredible work that has been done over the years by wonderful actors, and the writing and the ideas and the themes that have been dealt with have made me really inspired to be that much more inspired to be a part of it than I already was. Like I had never, before I got cast, I had never seen Next Gen. I've been working as an actor, at a time when there was no TiVo, so I couldn't, I just wasn't. I missed all of it. I was working, so to go back then and witness the incredible work of Patrick Stewart and Brett Spiner and the writing of episodes like Darmok and Yesterday's Enterprise and Measure of the Man, like these. That's to me that's the epitome of, because I was already familiar with the great stuff of the original series. To see how that could continue through the age made me like so happy that I got to work.
So when did you start watching Next Gen?
When I got cast.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So I watched the original series as a kid all the time, lots, and I'd seen the original movies, and I saw the J.J. Abrams movies, and it's always been a part of my overall nerd love. But then I did the deep dive into understanding the other how it's continued. But having the knowledge of the original series, also knowing the ways and seeing the ways that our show will stitch up into it, especially given I know that some people are really skeptical about that. Continue, like the other day, someone on Twitter still accused me of lying that we're in the Prime Universe, for instance.
That was yesterday.
I find it really satisfying as a long-term fan of these things to see how much care is being taken to make sure that all of that stuff does fit together. But it is asking something of the fandom to have faith. And as we all know, many fandoms have been betrayed often by things, so I understand sometimes why they're skeptical. But they can have faith.
A lot of Stanley's rough edges kind of smooth over the first season. Does that continue this year?
To some degree, but there's moments still. Like I was looping the other day, re-recording some dialogue, adding some new dialogue. Take Notaro, and I have a couple sparky moments. That were very fun to play.
I was going to ask. I'm a comedian, cosplaying as a reporter right now. But Tig Notaro is known for having this real dry deadpan. And was there moments where you had trouble keeping it together during takes and stuff like that?
Yes, mostly because she has a terrible time memorizing her lines. She will be the first to tell you this. When we're sitting in the chairs between takes, she's running the lines perfectly, and then she gets on set and she's like, "What is it? What is it? Huh? What?" But then she does a great job ultimately. But so that's just
I enjoyed it thoroughly.
She never panics though. She's never like, "Oh God!" She's just like, "What? Huh?
Give me the line."
I don't think of Tig Notaro as a panicky person. She seems pretty chill.
She's phenomenal human being.
Never met a more even-keeled person.
I'm excited to see how her character on the show and how
She's so great.
Yeah.
She's so funny.
I was so great. It's awesome when I saw her casting. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, they're kicking you out. Yeah.
That's right. Tig Notaro is in Star Trek. Tig Notaro. Also, Tig Notaro thrown under the bus by Anthony Rapp. Yeah, that's rude to say the least. I don't know. I can't wait to see Tig on the show. It's going to be super interesting and unintentionally funny. Maybe, who knows? This next group, I sat down with a pair, Doug Jones and Mary Wiseman. Doug Jones is kind of a hero of mine. My dream job is to be a monster in anything, just full makeup monster thing, and that's kind of Doug Jones's world. He's been, if you've seen, you know who he is by role. He was in The Shape of Water. He was Abe Sapien in Hellboy. He was in Pan's Labyrinth doing the creepy hand eyes thing. He was Slender Man. He's the go-to guy for rubber mask work. He's on this show, he's a fully fledged character. He's got to put this weird he's Commander Saru on the show, the main alien dude, and he's great. And I kind of got to sit next to him and to talk to him. It was I was a bit starstruck. He got me. Of all of the people to be starstruck by, he got me. Listen.
Doug's gonna scooch in here in a second.
Oh, I thought they were letting you fly solo. You get to handle all of the questions yourself.
Oh gosh, I'm not ready.
So I was going to ask, I'm a comedian coming from a comedy background, and you've played some comedic roles, and you seem to bring kind of a levity to the. Bring kind of a levity. Hey, all right, never mind. Hello.
Hey.
I forgot the question I was asking.
No, you're a comedian. You're a comedic
Oh, sure. So you bring a kind of there's some moments of levity with your character that kind of, and then there's also a complete swing in terms of that. Do you find having that balance, and like Michelle Yeoh explaining in the panel that she gets to play 3 different versions of herself, that exercises like a little like the muscles differently and keeps it fresh?
Right. It's a bit more exciting and a bit more satisfying to me as an actor because we all contain multitudes, and no one wants to play one note forever. And so I think they've been very generous in letting Tilly have more of a life than just maybe what she seems on the surface, which is also an important lesson, I think, as a character study, that people contain more than just the outside container. So yeah, for me, it's very exciting. It's much more satisfying to get to ping pong back and forth and to understand how those 2 parts of her connect.
Yeah, and you also get Doug, you get some comedic moments as well, and just the people dealing with your race. You've described that you're going to go through an evolution in season 2, but that you cannot talk about. I'm assuming there's and I'm sure when people grow and their bodies go through changes, there's lots of comedy involved in that. I can only imagine for a different species entirely.
Right, adolescence is funny, yes, and Saru, is we don't know how old Saru is.
Oh, that's a fair point.
And we don't know how old he can get. So I think we're going to find out a little bit more about that maybe. And so awkward and funny can also is a very thin line between that and emotional and tear jerking. So we again, like Mary just said, all the colors are there. We just what color do you dip your brush into that day? And the writers have been very good about giving us all those colors to this season for sure. We all get to play whatever emotions we come in the room with.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite elements that your audience might be talking about? I'm excited. Tilly gets angry this season. Like,
boy.
She gets pissed. And, I don't know. I don't think so. I might have accidentally, and it could swirl in there, but not of the writer's volition. No, she has moments of being frustrated this season, and I'm excited for that color too. She's going to be tested, and I'm excited for that.
Well, I'm excited for you to see my home planet of Kaminar, and to meet my sister Sarana. She's also tall, thin, and supermodel-like, so gorgeous, just gorgeous. Yeah, Hannah Spear did an amazing job playing her. So that and seeing how gorgeous my home planet is, it's very much it's like a travel brochure. Yeah.
How much of it do you get to see before the effects and all that stuff are added in? Is there enough on set to really get it? Really?
There was. They found a great location. We filmed in Toronto, so there was and that's right on Lake Ontario. There's a lot of shoreline that gets very gorgeous the farther you get out of the city. So we found a great spot that became Kaminar. Yeah.
Doug, bringing Saru to life, you obviously have to deal with like aesthetics and all the added effects and stuff that many of your other fellow actors don't. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the importance of voice and getting his voice right and using that to convey emotions, because that's where a lot of it comes from. And it comes from beautifully, but I was wondering if you could talk about that process.
That's very sweet of you. Thank you. Saru's voice came with a personality type that wants to prove himself, that wants to be the most postured and polite person in the room, but he also wants to live by the rules. He wants to get everything right. He wants to present pure etiquette, and so what comes with that, I think, is a very proper way of speaking. That he's trying to get that mid-Atlantic sound, like the cranes from Frasier. You know how they spoke very hoity-toity all the time. He's just this side of that, I think. Yeah, but not because he's hoity-toity, because he's terrified that he won't be. I think that's it.
Talk about Tilly getting angry this season. Do we see anything like the Captain Killy scene from last year?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't know. I also don't mean to sell it like that's the moment, but it's just an interesting color. stellar for me. You know, I don't think I've gotten to play that as her, so that's interesting to me. Yeah, I don't think I thought about that while it was happening, but that's like a really good point. I mean, if what Michelle was saying during the panel is true, that we all have the seed of humanity and it's a matter of where we're nurtured, that she contains the capacity for whatever, you know, Killy is, which is cruelty and rage and coldness. So, yeah, I mean, there has to be part of that in there because I think maybe biologically they're kind of the same. Yeah, that's a good question, and I will use that. I'll steal that from you in the future.
Where do you look personally to draw inspiration for Sarah?
Oh, for sure. Oh, wow. I have a brother. My oldest brother, Bobby, is a PhD in molecular biology. So when he talks to me, my eyes glaze over and I have no idea what he's saying. Through some of him. And also, if you ever watch Downton Abbey and you see how the house staff is very, very prim and proper and polite with the family. I'm kind of the head butler of the ship. That's kind of how I feel. So yeah, there's some physicality there and some brains there, and also but even how I relate with a character like Tilly, who's like, you know, to me behaviorally she's kind of off the rails, and I want to reel her in sometimes because young lady decorum.
Right.
So I find myself as kind of like a school marm at the same time.
Well, that's funny. Even in Downton Abbey, those head butlers are like Carolyn. They have that quality.
Oh, I just wanted to say quickly, you touched in the panel on response to Tilly, and I was wondering if maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit, because I know personally if I had seen a character like you when I was watching like The Next Generation, it would have been revolutionary for me. So you're kind of more, like, Tilly's very heroic and she's very capable, but she's also very horrible.
Yeah, she's not a superhero, is she? I mean, she's smart. She's very smart, but I think she contains the same stuff that we all contain. Certainly that I do. I don't know. I've never been asked to play a superhero type character. I don't know why. So all I have to bring to it is what I myself have, and that's, you know, quirks and all, shortcomings and all, and but she when Alex was saying on the panel that she always comes from a good place, that she always wants to do good. That's what's heroic, I think, is her desire to do the right thing and to help people, and that's where that heroic thing comes in. Maybe that's why people love her. I still don't really know. But I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's a real honor.
That honor's mine. Thank you.
It was an honor. It was an honor, Doug Jones. It was an honor to meet you and hear you speak about your character, and I would have talked to you about that shit forever. I would kill to have you on a full episode of Zeros on Heroes, but it was very cool for me. The next pairing that we had sit down with us was one of the Klingons, Mary Chieffo, and Vox/Ash Tyler, Shazad Latif, and we got to sit down and talk to them.
Hello.
Hi.
We're a gentleman and a scholar. And a captain. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Welcome to the smallest room.
Yeah, it's very intimate.
Yeah.
Hi.
Thank you. How did you guys feel seeing the full room at the panel just kind of packed all the way to the back?
Mm-hmm.
How was that experience for you to just kind of see the response that you're getting from the fans?
When you first go in, you can't see anything, so you feel safe, and then as soon as those lights went on,
we were like, oh.
There's like a whole other level back there.
It's got to be fun, really.
Yeah.
I try and do the thing where I just stare out to try and face up to it, and I'm really shitting myself. I'm just like,
it's good.
If I look at them, then it's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm going to act brave.
Yeah. I will say that the difference, you know, we were here last year, and 3 episodes had aired, and our big episode 4 aired the next day. And of course, he couldn't even talk about the fact that it was his first big big episode.
There's so much secrecy involved right now. Is there like a chopper hovering above you with like a sniper outside? She's stalking. She's talking.
Yeah, I do sometimes feel like a sniper could get me. Like I start to say something, and I'm like, oh no! Wait. I like check my phone. I like put it on airplane mode. I'm sure they could still track me, but I try. You try and stay close with.
So the last season was very much about war, and the big thing now is it's very much about peace.
Yeah.
Seeing a new side of the Klingons now, not just literally with the hair, but like I imagine character-wise as well.
Yeah.
What can you say about the path that we're going to see them on in this season? Again, no spoilers.
Yeah.
Watch out for the chopper. But what can you say about what that path is and how it's different and where you think it might be?
Well, for Laurel, she really is trying to be a good leader, and she is trying to find her way of upholding T'Kuma's vision of unification. It was very clear last season that a war against the Federation was not going to unify the Klingons, and she's trying to figure out how she can bring people together in a way that is both innately Klingon, but also she just came from this experience where she was exposed to humans on a level she'd never had been before, and she's seen that there's something innately interesting and good about them. And that's something that I hope all diplomatic leaders can be, is even if they don't agree entirely with other people, they can see eye to eye that they want to keep things in mind. So that's part of her struggle. And then they really are leaning into her being a lady Klingon in a patriarchal species, and that is something that is tricky. And there are a lot of things that people try and use against me because of who I am. And then I got this guy.
I would say as well as all of that, I mean, last year we saw that fighting, that side of the Klingons, but now we see a lot of the intimate sort of, bedroom scenes. There's quite intimate, how she deals with Tyler in those kind of places. And it's nice to see that, because I don't think we see that.
The whole sort of conspiracy theory type thing last year was fantastic. I mean, there were forums after forums, sort of discussing it, what really was going on, and even down to the point where there was disinformation on IMDb, right?
Yeah.
Now, whose idea was that?
There were so many people working behind the scenes at CBS, all these places. I mean, I don't know the exact. I don't know the
IMDb
don't even know much, but the idea when we had to sort of backtrack and because it was getting out of hand and all this kind of stuff, they said we've got to come up with a pseudonym. And I was like, well, I wanted to use my dad's name. I just thought the same, but then in terms of who's there, I don't know how many people. There might be a whole room of people just I don't know.
Put the pictures of Oak, and then of course there was the real Javid Iqbal on Twitter, which I don't believe was CBS affiliated, but it was very entertaining, and I couldn't like any of the things because I was like, I can't give anything away, but I enjoyed
the snipers.
Yes, exactly. It's like the second I pressed it. What are you doing?
So it sounds like in season 2 we'll see Laurel show a little bit more of a feminine side. You were alluding to in the panel. Was it kind of freeing in season 1? She's not traditionally feminine the way we see, femininity.
Yes.
Is that really freeing to just be able to be so powerful?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite elements of the character and what they allowed her to do. I mean, I felt that within her alienness, she was still allowed a great amount of sensuality, and certainly the scenes between Vogue and Laurel, and then ultimately with Tyler, there was a softness that I really pushed for. But I think what we're shifting towards is that's still there. And I was talking in that pod over there about the fact that because she is an alien woman, we still do view her as not gendered in the typical way. That there is still this kind of balance that we don't quite see. And I feel like it's riffing off of these archetypal female characters, but then taking a new twist on them and giving them more voice. And I will say the embracing of the femininity, it's just also giving more voice to that side of her, giving more airspace to what was there in the first season. But she still gets a lot of fearsome moments too.
Is there anyone who inspires you for the strength of your character, or anybody that you think of, even in a subtle way?
Well, within Star Trek, I really loved, particularly Grilka, who has 2 episodes of Deep Space Nine. She had just the way she carried herself. She was a full Klingon woman, which I loved, and just the way she carried herself. But in real life, Gwendolyn Christie is a huge role model for me. She's 6'3", she owns her height, she wears heels. I just, so often I'm 6 feet, and people will be like, oh, well, so-and-so's tall, but they hide it really well. And I was like, why don't we just celebrate whatever size I am? And so Gwendolyn Christie has been the first person that I've seen on carpets that's just completely owning her size. That's similar to mine. I mean, we're very different, but if I were to say someone who just, every time I think of her, empowers me to stay true to myself, it would be her.
Given how complicated their history is, how would you sum up the relationship between your 2 characters in the 2nd season?
Complicated.
I say we get, just by the nature of the fact we're working together day to day, like every day, we definitely get closer.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of confusion and normal everyday relationship things in those moments. So it's definitely an exploration, a deeper exploration.
Deeper exploration.
And before it was just wild, no one knew what was going on.
Time to listen.
Yeah, this time to listen. Yeah.
And empathy, I think, is big on both sides. I think we
trying to come through it together.
Yeah.
Like, I felt when we were at that last time.
Yeah.
It's more like,
Is this going to be Star Trek's first love triangle?
or our love rhombus. That's what we've been pushing. Love rhombus. And on that note,
how do we follow love rhombus? So are you guys familiar with the con experience and coming to Comic-Con and stuff like that? Is there anyone that you would cosplay as from Star Trek or otherwise? What would you go for? Would you go as Captain Phasma, Gwendolyn Christie?
I would for sure go as Captain Phasma. Also, can we get that spinoff going?
Yeah. I think we should get Gwendolyn. I mean, Game of Thrones is over, and she should be on Discovery now.
That would be great.
I need an Asian superhero. I don't know any Asian superheroes. Are there any? There must be some.
In the comic books, Amadeus Cho is the new Incredible Hulk. He's a Korean.
South Asian.
South Asian. I'm Latino. I get that all the time. So no one specifies what it is. I'm Cuban, but everyone assumes all Latinos. But there
must be some. We need to write something.
Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel is Pakistani. It's getting better. I mean, I'm sorry, this isn't my. I didn't mean to answer questions. This is that's your. But
also Bellatrix Lestrange.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Just that's great aesthetic.
It would be a badass.
Yeah. All right. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you. London to London.
Yep, somehow I found a way to make it about me. Mission accomplished. I felt so dumb. They were very cool. Mary and Shazad were very cool and fun. They seemed like they were having a great time. Also having a great time was our final interview of that session, which was with Sonequa Martin Green herself. She's the lead, and she was bright-eyed and full of energy and very fun and just a delight to talk to and perfect for press. This whole thing worked out really well. I don't know what I was afraid of, but she was very cool, and she had a lot to say about the show and her character and a little bit about Walking Dead too. Take a listen.
Hi, welcome to our table.
Since the panel, I just need to tell you that your look is like the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. You're welcome. I love your hair. Oh, thank you. I wish I could have your hair. The green, the teal, I want it.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Hello.
What a nice table.
So can you talk about your relationship with Spock?
Yes. Well, I will tell you what I've been telling everyone. And this is all that I can tease, but it's a lot. It is a very complicated relationship. It is a very complicated, difficult relationship. And we dig into it as deep as we can go. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate that it's not, it's far from easy, and we go there, and I think it's very courageous, especially considering the canon. I just think it's very courageous. I think it's very well done, and there is no stone left unturned. And it's quite, I don't know, it's beautiful, but it's ugly, but it's beautiful. So, yeah.
We've talked previously about the.
Don't forget.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
So season 1 was very much Michael's journey.
Yes.
With that being the case, what can you tell us about your arc in season 2?
Well, I will say, season 2 is deeply, deeply, deeply emotional. Season 1 was very emotional as well, but we go down to another level with season 2. And there's certainly action, and the action's fantastic, but the emotion is really, really deep, and it's very challenging emotion as well. And so I hope that audiences, I hope that you come along and risk your heart because it will be wrenched from all the emotion. So one thing, speaking to that emotion, is that we have a lot to deal with after this war. This war is over now, and now there is time to deal with the aftermath. Now there's time to deal with the residual effects of this war and the choices that we had to make and the things we suffered and the things that we lost. Those, we have to deal with them now. And so that's where a lot of the emotion is coming from. We're getting acclimated to a new captain. We're having a little bit of PTSD from our old captain. There's a lot of bonds that have been broken, a lot of bonds that have been made anew. So I love that we didn't just pick right in and say like, oh, it's great now. That's not how it happens, which is amazing, I think.
I'm a huge martial arts fan, and Michelle Yeoh is an icon to me. And she seems to have crossed over, and she brings this energy that is. It seems like you guys are. It's almost infectious. You guys kind of are forced to, like, it just happens that you pick up on it. How has it been working with Michelle Yeoh, someone who's been in the industry for a long time, and now you get to kind of work with her?
She's a living legend.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And she couldn't be more graceful, and she couldn't be more humble, and she couldn't be more kind and unassuming. She gets. I get at her every chance that I get. I'm like, everybody, come look at this compilation video on YouTube of Michelle Yeoh, in honor of International Women's Day, and she's like, Saniqua, and I'm like, look what you've been able to do. Look at what you've contributed. Look at what you've achieved. Look at who you are to so many people.
She was a Bond. She was in one of the Bond films as well.
She was, and she was a Bond woman at a time when Bond women were one-dimensional.
Exactly.
And she said, no. Yes, and that was her. Yes, that was her contribution. She said, if I'm going to do this, I need to be my own hero, and she made it happen. And so I think she's a hero, and I'm just so honored to stand next to her.
Has she impacted your performances in any way that you feel like that you pull from her performances?
No, I mean, she definitely impacts me in the sense that her and I get to be shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow in the story together.
That's pretty cool,
right? And so in that way, but she certainly impacted me separately from this show. Before this show, I was very aware of her and very inspired by her. So I tell her that every day too. And she's like,
I think it's really interesting the spectrum of Vulcan that we've seen throughout the years, with Sarek being full Vulcan and Spock half and half, and now you are really fully human.
Yeah.
Do you think it makes it easier or harder that you have your full humanity at your disposal as an actor?
That's an interesting question. I think that whatever the parameters of your story are, you only have as much room as you give yourself. And I think that if you purpose to create as specifically as you possibly can within the narrative that you've been given, then you'll find a lot of room, and you'll find all the things that you need at your disposal as an actor. For me, being fully human, something that I noticed sort of looking looking back on it, you know, with hindsight being 20/20 and all, is that there was a sort of floodgate effect that happened with Michael Burnham. Having a cap on everything there was more power to the boil being fully human, pretending to be a Vulcan, right? It's different when you're half Vulcan. It's really in your DNA. But when you're not, it's all an act. It's all image. It's all forcing. It's all control. It's all discipline. It's all these things. And so I feel that, you know, the water is like boiling underneath, and there's this really strong top on it. But eventually it blew off in season 1, and I think everything came gushing out. And I remember there were people who were a little thrown off by how emotional I was as Burnham. But I do believe it was that flooding effect that happened where it just, you know, sort of came out. And you still see that. You still see that happening because it's still flooding out. You've got years and years and years and years that need to flood out. And a lot of things didn't get dealt with as Burnham because it was easier to put them in the attic than deal with them because they would make me dig into emotions that I didn't want to dig into.
You've experienced fandom before on The Walking Dead. Did you really know what you were getting into when you took the role in Star Trek?
That's another good question. I feel like I had an idea because I knew what Star Trek was and I knew how important it was. But you can never prepare yourself for the experience. You can never prepare yourself for that, for the panel. You can't prepare yourself for the stories that you hear, the one-on-one, like heart-to-heart connections that you get. You have an intellectual understanding, but you don't really know. I knew intellectually what a big deal it was, but I've still been knocked off my feet. Yeah. Who does?
Walking Dead.
Oh yes, that's
I was gonna ask the
Theirs
same
is
question.
later on. What time is their panel? I think. Oh gosh, we have another event we have to go to.
Imagine if you were to get up on the mic to ask them a question.
I'm gonna do that one day.
I'm telling you, that's a great idea.
Next year, God willing.
For sure. Thank you, Sonequa. Thank you so much. So if Sonequa Martin Green mic bombs any Walking Dead panel anywhere, she got the idea from us. Credit where credit is due. Yeah, the show looks great. She was so cool, and all of season 1 is on CBS All Access if you want to watch it. I highly recommend it. And season 2 isn't going to be out till 2019, but that's just around the corner. Who knows? They really are making an effort to make it a big budget show. It really does look great and deserves to be on a bigger stage. I don't know why it's on that little streaming service, but everybody's got to make money somehow. If you've made it this far into the podcast, that means you were okay with me recording at what sounded like a bar trying to talk to your friends. You know what I mean? It's just loud noises in the background. And again, I apologize, but that is the worst one. Of all of the sessions I recorded, that's the worst one. So, you can look forward to the next one's, you know, not sounding. I figured like a Band-Aid, just rip it off and give you the roughest one first, but it's also the coolest one. Who knows? It was a tough call. I got some cool stuff coming up for the next few episodes. Marvel Rising with Milana Weintraub and a bunch of awesome voice actors. That show's really cool. We got I'm a big voiceover nerd, so I got on the DC Lego Villains video game roundtables, and I got to talk to D. Bradley Baker, who was cool as shit, and he's the guy that does the noises and everything. He's on American Dad. He's a voiceover legend, and that was super cool. Super Mansion with Bryan Cranston and Breckin Meyer. It was a weekend full of stuff, and I can't wait to share it all with you. Remember to share this with your friends if you thought it was cool, and you have friends that want to listen to people talking in a restaurant. That is cool by me. You know, go ahead, share. Write us a review on iTunes. That would be really beneficial. And well, just listen, subscribe, have fun, and come out to the live shows every Thursday at the Creek at the Cave in Long Island City, Queens at 8 p.m. for Unsung Heroes. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Remember to go out and be heroic!